Hi, I'm Lee Keller, and this video is going to go over how to create an IBA route. It's not like planning a route for any normal ride. There are special things that you have to pay attention to and things that you don't want to do. So let's look at this route that I have here. This is a route from a ride that we had in our last Southeast Iron Butt tour, and we already made the adjustments in this. So if you look down here at the bottom thing for American Biker, you can see that this is 1,015 miles. I usually shoot for 1,040 to 1,060 because you'll find a significant difference in odometers from bike to bike. And just because you have 1,015, the smaller bike or the larger bike, you never know which one. A lot depends on custom wheels, tire inflation, tracking on the highway, so many variables. But they may come up with a 995. That will fail them on testing for IBA certification. So always go over 40 to 60 miles. It's very recommended. Now, when we first did this, one of the key things about it was that we didn't have this corner in here. So if I go down here, I'm going to take that corner out that we put in. And you'll notice as soon as I take out that corner, it adjusts the route. And I am now down to 891 miles. That's not acceptable, obviously. But if I grab this point and drag this right back up to about where it was before, you can see that over here that I've got 1,018 miles now. Now that would seem acceptable, except that point does not count. It doesn't have an address on your receipts. You must have a receipt for every point that you have on here. That's why you want to also keep your points down. Usually the distance between points that I do is between 125 and 135. And make sure that your smaller bikes can make that distance before you start. That's very important because obviously you don't want bikes pulling off to the side because they ran out of gas. That will really kill your timing. So dragging a point over there does not help you at all. Now you'll notice the person that did this put in the points because on this particular application you can do the POIs and then just it shows the name. But you're going to need the address for every single point. So sometimes you have to switch to other applications like Google Maps or something and look up the specific gas station that you're stopping at and put that in. The address is going to be important because for your certification validation, you're going to submit copies of your receipts. The addresses on those receipts is what counts. They will put those in to something like Google Maps. They usually try multiple different things to validate. It doesn't take them long. Put in the addresses. It'll find the shortest distance from point A to point B, point C, and so on like that. When it does that, obviously your addresses count. A point that you dragged off to the side will not count. So it's very important that you have a receipt for every point. Now, when you consider you got a starting point, you're probably starting with a full tank of gas and a receipt from there. Okay, that's your starting point. That's not a stop. So your next place that you stop at, that's one receipt. Now, if you go at approximately 125 mile intervals, you've got one at 125, 250, 375, 500, and then 625, 750, 875, and 1,000. But remember, you want to go over 1,000 a little bit, so you're going to have another stop. Roughly, you're going to have like 8 stops. The stops may be annoying to some people that have longer range bikes, but frankly, that's too bad because you still want to get up off your butt every hour and a half to 2 hours and move around. So when you get gas, don't just get gas, walk around your bike a little bit, go to the bathroom if you have to. Definitely want to get some movement, blood flow. Rub your legs, move around a little bit because nothing worse than having severe cramps while you're riding because now you have to pull over and take care of that, and that's going to kill your time. So do things right. It's going to be important. Now over here, I've got a sample of what I started to do, and I just wanted to show you the error of my ways, because right here I just have a quick route. I have 3 points in, and I don't have addresses. You should have addresses, the exact address of where you're going to go for gas at each stop. But I put these in just to give you a demo. And if you look over here, you'll see this is 387 miles. And if I said, well, you know what, I need more miles, and I click on this and I drag it over to here, this looks really good, because now I'm up to 471 miles. I added some miles, but they don't count, because when they check the addresses, you notice over here on Google Maps, it didn't add an address for that new point I made. It added the miles for it, but not the address. If you don't have an address for a stop on a receipt, it does not count. So what I'm looking at here that I think is 471 miles is actually 387 miles. Very important to pay attention to that. When you're doing an IBA ride, this isn't planning some nice route for a nice scenic ride, leisurely ride, or whatever, or even 1,000+ mile ride. It has to have these points for documentation and for them to process the validation. So make sure you do that. I can't even begin to stress that enough. Make sure you have the exact address of where you're going to stop, and then put them in here, because this will handle up to 10. Check to see what your miles are. Remember, you're shooting for about 1,040 to 1,060. If you go over that, it's fine, but you also want to look at your time, how long it's going to take for the whole ride. And remember, the Google Maps estimation is never accurate, but it'll give you a good approximation. If you're riding at like 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, that will pretty much make up for your stops for gas. You should be okay. Like if you stop every 125 miles, give or take 5 or 10, and you just follow that pattern, that extra 5 miles per hour makes up enough time, so it's not going to impact your total time. It'll almost make the time that Google Maps gives you as pretty accurate. So again, it's not dead accurate. Your stops should last 10 minutes, 15 at the very, very most. Remember, you're doing like 8 stops, maybe 9. 8 stops is 2 hours. So right, if you've got something that comes up and it says like 16.5 hours for your ride, add 2 hours to that, because it's going to take you more time. Okay, if you have any questions, remember, go to the meetings that we have, and we'll answer them online. I'll see you on the ride.